That's the new band? I mean, it's the same band, but new footage of the band, their composite, and all that looks fantastic. That's great. Can't wait till it's real. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to A Late Show. I'm your host, Stephen Colbert. Have you missed me? I missed you. How many days weren't we doing the show? No, one, because we did a Thursday show. What are you talking about? We did a Thursday show, no Friday show, then we did a Monday show. One day. It's all we needed to be, just ready and refreshed. Hey, happy December, everybody. Or very late March. It's hard to tell at this point. But if it is December 1st, I got to say, Christmas has come early this year as the president continues to shower us all with the gift of watching him lose every day, sometimes several times a day. And I'll fill you in on his latest ramblings in tonight's edition of...
La la la, I can't hear you. That means you don't exist. La la. Ah!
The road from the White House.
I didn't fall.
Sunday morning, the president went on the Fox News to trade lies with former journalist and big mouth Billy pundit Maria Bartiromo. Here's the ting. He was upset that when the in-person votes were counted, he was ahead on Election Day. But then later, when the mail-in ballots were counted, he fell behind. But he put it in much more colorful language.
This election was over, and then they did dumps. They call them dumps, big, massive dumps.
Now, if there's one thing the president knows, it's big, massive dumps. He's taking one on democracy right now. He just can't stand the fact that he's number two. Then the temporary president explained the stakes of the election that is already over.
If I wasn't here, Antifa would be running this country right now. They club people over the heads when nobody's looking, and then nobody talks about it. It's a disgrace. It's absolutely a disgrace. And if I'm not here, I'm sort of your wall.
So he's gone from build the wall to I am the wall. I'll give him this. He's dumb as a brick. Then the president speculated that the conspiracy that he was making up was coming from inside his own administration.
This is total fraud. And how the FBI and Department of Justice, I don't know, maybe they're involved, but how people are allowed to get away from this stuff with this stuff is unbelievable.
To be clear, the president is implicating the Department of Justice in a conspiracy with Biden and I think Venezuela to commit electoral fraud. Now, you'd think the DOJ would want to respond, and you would be right, because today we heard from Attorney General and a man explaining the fries were not for the whole table, Bill Barr. This afternoon, General Barr told the Associated Press that the Justice Department has not uncovered evidence of widespread voter fraud that would change the outcome of the 2020 presidential election. He will be missed. In fact, Barr went out of his way to discredit one insane claim that the president's lawyers have been pushing about a Venezuelan voting system being programmed to give the election to Biden, saying there has been one assertion that would be the claim that machines were programmed to skew the election results, and DHS and DOJ have looked into that. And so far, we haven't seen anything to substantiate that, adding, to date, we have not seen fraud on a scale that could have affected a different outcome in the election. Fraud on a scale, also known as the president's annual physical. The president's chances of overturning the results were always next to zero, but those chances just moved to downtown zero town because yesterday, Arizona and Wisconsin certified Biden's win, which means that the president has failed to stop the vote certification in all 6 states where he contested his defeat. So that's 0-6 in the certifications and 0-3 in recounts, and he hasn't won a single fraud case. He is undefeated at losing. He is the Michael Jordan of playing baseball. Among the losings in Wisconsin, the president paid $3 million for a partial recount of that election, which ended up adding 87 votes to the statewide margin for, drumroll please, Joe Biden. Oh my God, he just keeps making it worse. He's like a guy at a custody hearing saying, Your Honor, my wife has made it seem like I'm a delinquent father and a terrible gambler, but how would she know any of that? I was never around. I'm always at the casino. By the way, I'm putting $50 on her winning this case. Who's got it? Who's taking it? So Wisconsin is a total embarrassment for the president, but if it helps, Arizona's worse. Reminder, the Copper State has a Republican governor, Doug Ducey, who is so loyal to the president that he once said that he changed the ringtone on his phone for when the White House calls to Hail to the Chief, so he wouldn't miss a call from the president or Pence. Of course, on January 20th, he'll have to change it to this. Ducey was in the middle of signing the Arizona vote certification when microphones picked this up. The president called him while he was signing, and the governor just sent him straight to voicemail. That is a guy who has picked up that phone once too often. Yes, Mr. President. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You told me. Massive dumps. Right. Listen, I gotta go. Arizona's going through a tunnel. Ducey's not alone. The president is also targeting Georgia governor and man teaching himself to smile from online videos, Brian Kemp. Kemp certified the president's loss in Georgia, which enraged POTUS. Earlier last month, he sat with advisors and plotted out a call to scream at Kemp. Yes, you've got to have a detailed plan for all your important screaming. You can't just wing it. It's not a pandemic. And when he got the governor on the phone, the president urged Kemp to do more to fight for him in Georgia, publicly echoing his claims of fraud and appear more regularly on television. In response, Kemp was non-committal. Wow, how'd that go? Thank you, Mr. President, but just looking ahead on my calendar, I have something on here you don't. Future? Even more forcefully, Kemp's office slapped the president down with a statement saying Georgia law prohibits the governor from interfering in elections. And that's saying something. Not much is prohibited by Georgia law. They let you marry a gun as long as it's 16. The president's attack on Georgia's election integrity is a big deal because in about a month, the state is holding two runoffs that will determine which party controls the Senate. And the president wants Kemp to pre-overturn those runoffs, too. Tweeting today, do something, Brian Kemp, GA. You allowed your state to be scammed. We must check signatures and count signed envelopes against ballots. Then call off election. It won't be needed. We will all win. He wants Kemp to overturn the previous election, which a Republican lost, so he cannot hold a future election, which, because it won't happen, Republicans will win. It's a Mobius strip of voter suppression, like that M.C. Escher drawing of the staircases Republicans installed to keep minorities from reaching the polls. Republicans are worried the president questioning our entire electoral system could depress turnout in the two runoffs and could therefore cost Republicans the Senate. Republicans could end up being destroyed by their own creation. It's like the tale of Dr. Frankenstein. They've already got the reanimated corpse. In fact, some Georgia Republicans are calling for a boycott of the Senate elections. Yes, thanks to the president's lies, Republicans could sit out the Georgia runoffs and hand the Senate to the Democrats. No surprise. Eventually, the president always eats his own, which is what's whispered to have happened to his hideous sixth child, Dirk Ranka. It's very difficult to say those words while looking at that photo. And it's happening. It's already happening. There was a campaign event held this weekend by RNC chair and prison guard on date night, Ronna Romney McDaniel. McDaniel was there to get out the vote, but one woman said, given the president's claims of vast voter fraud, what's the point?
How are we going to use money and work when it's already decided?
It's not decided. This is the key.
No.
It's not decided.
Okay, so his voters have finally started following the president's logic. Wait a second. If the election is rigged, why should I donate? Why should I even vote? Well, there's one thing I can always believe in. Windmills cause cancer. Despite the soon-to-be ex-president's best efforts, we still have a president-elect, and Joe Biden made it clear he wants to hit the ground running. But that might be a little harder now because this weekend, Joe Biden broke his foot while playing with his dog, Major. Well, I'm glad it's nothing serious, but how do you break your foot while playing with your dog? Someone please tell him that you throw the stick and the dog chases it. Biden received medical care immediately, and the scan revealed two tiny fractures of bones in the middle of his right foot that appear to be relatively mild. That's right. Joe Biden is moderate to the bone. Joe's doing fine, but his foot's going to take a while to heal. So for the next few weeks, he will need a walking boot. That's right, Jack. These boots are made for walking. That's just what they'll do in 4 to 6 weeks. I'm 78. My bones are as hollow and light as Rice Krispies. Snap, crackle, pop, Jack. Come on. I won. Have I done that since he won? Have I done that? I don't know. The president-elect officially introduced his economic team today, including his pick for Treasury Secretary, former Federal Reserve Chair and Dracula's Nana, Janet Yellen. If confirmed, Yellen would be the first woman to head the Treasury Department, finally breaking the cash ceiling. 2 years ago, the current president replaced her at the Federal Reserve because he thought Yellen was too short to be Fed chair. He even put a sign out front. You must be this tall to moderate long-term interest rates. Now, like I said, it's December, and that means Christmas is in the air. It spreads through aerosolized particles. One person showing her true Christmas spirit is First Lady and Evita asking Argentina to cry a little harder for her, Melania Trump. On Twitter yesterday, the First Lady unveiled this year's White House Christmas decorations, and in a departure from previous years, the theme was Christmas. It's a cheery twist on 2018's Yuletide of Blood, and even more wholesome than 2017 when she stood alone on the stairs, choosing which ballerina she and the president would sacrifice later that night. That's that one with the fire in her eyes. That's why the reviews of this year's decorations have been positive, mixed with an undercurrent of relief, like Melania unveils her final White House Christmas decorations, and they're fine. It's the most adequate time of the year. But there's a reason the First Lady is eager not to ruffle any partridge feathers this year. The recently released audio from 2018 where she revealed her true Christmas spirit.
They say I'm complicit. I'm the same like him. I support him. I don't say enough. I don't do enough.
No,
where I am, I'm working like my ass off.
I know.
That Christmas stuff that, who gives a about Christmas stuff and decoration, but I need to do it, right?
Could be jollier. Reminds me of 1973 when the Senate inquiry into Watergate revealed secret recordings of Pat Nixon.
And then I told Martha Mitchell, Santa could eat my butt.
We have a great show for you tonight. My guests are Bryan Cranston and Representative-elect Cori Bush. But when we return, it's time for Meanwhile. Stick around.